I can cook. I can clean. I can be quiet. The cargo ship sat alone at the edge of way station Gamma 12. It was an old ship, covered in rust and patches. The name on its side read Drifting Lantern, though most of the letters had faded long ago. Inside, a man named Han Doyen sat in the pilot chair, eating cold noodles from a plastic container. Doyen was 34 years old. He had dark circles under his eyes and a beard he had forgotten to trim for weeks. His father had given him this ship before dying, and Doyen had promised to keep it flying. That was 7 years ago. Now the ship barely worked, his debts were growing, and he could not remember the last time he had talked to another person for more than a few minutes. He finished his noodles and threw the container into a pile of trash in the corner. The station outside his window was busy with aliens and humans moving between ships. Doyen did not care. He just wanted to refuel and leave. Then he heard the knock dot. It was soft. So soft that he almost missed it. He thought it was just the ship making noise, as it often did. But then it came again. 3 small knocks on the cargo bay door. Doyen frowned. Stowaways were common at stations like this. Criminals, refugees, people running from something. He had no money to steal and nothing valuable on his ship. Still, he should check. If it was trouble, he needed to know. He walked to the small screen that showed the camera outside the cargo door. What he saw made him stop. A woman stood there. She was small and thin, with pale lavender skin that seemed to glow slightly in the station lights. Her eyes were large and dark, like pools of black water. She wore torn clothes that looked like they had once been some kind of uniform. She was shaking, though the station was not cold. She was not human. Doyen could see that clearly. But she was close enough to human that it felt strange to look at her. She looked directly at the camera. Somehow, she knew he was watching. Then she spoke. Her voice came through the old intercom, crackling and quiet. I can cook. I can clean. I can be quiet. Please, please let me in. Doyen stared at the screen. His hand hovered over the button that would open the door. He knew the smart thing to do. Station security paid a small reward for turning in undocumented aliens. It was not much money, but it was something. And taking in a stranger was dangerous. He did not know what she was or what she had done, but something in her voice stopped him. The way she said please, not demanding, not begging loudly, just quiet and tired. Like she had said it 100 times before and expected nothing. Doyen had felt that way once. After his father died. After his friends stopped calling. After the galaxy seemed to forget he existed. His finger pressed the button. The cargo door opened with a grinding sound. Cold air from the station rushed in. The woman did not move at first. She just stared at the open door like she did not believe it was real. Then, slowly, she stepped inside. She was even smaller up close. Her head barely reached his shoulder. Her hands were folded in front of her, and she kept her eyes on the floor. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you. I will not cause trouble. I promise. I can work. I can do anything you need. Doyen felt uncomfortable. He was not used to someone being so grateful for so little. What's your name? He asked. She hesitated. I chose a name. I heard it once, and I thought it was beautiful. Yuna. My name is Yuna. Chose a name? You didn't have one before? My kind are not given names. We are given numbers. But I wanted a name. So I took one. She finally looked up at him. Her dark eyes were wet. Is that wrong? Doyen shook his head slowly. No, it's not wrong. He led her into the ship. As they walked through the corridors, he watched her look around. Her eyes moved over the piles of old food containers, the dust on the walls, the broken lights that flickered. She did not say anything, but he could see her taking note of everything. "What are you?" he asked. "I mean, what species?" "I am Velith," she said quietly. Doyen had heard of them. Everyone in the galaxy had. The Velith were created long ago by an empire that no longer existed. They were designed to be perfect servants, obedient, quiet, easy to control. When that empire fell, the Velith were left behind. Now they were bought and sold across the galaxy like furniture. "You escaped from someone," Doyen said. It was not a question. Yuna nodded. "A merchant lord. He was taking me to be sold at auction. I found a way out of my cage while the ship was docked. I have been hiding in this station for 3 days. And you came to my ship because it was the smallest, the oldest. I thought..." She paused. "I thought someone with a ship like this might understand what it feels like to be forgotten." Diane did not know what to say to that. It was too true. He showed her to a small storage room that had a bed in it. The sheets were all but clean. She looked at the bed like it was made of gold. "You can stay until the next station," he said. "Then we'll figure something out." Yuna bowed deeply. "Thank you. I will earn my place. You will see." Diane left her there and went back to the cockpit. He started the engines and began the undocking process. As the ship pulled away from the station, he told himself this was temporary. He would drop her off somewhere safe and forget this ever happened. But 2 hours later, when he walked past the galley, he stopped. It was clean. Not just clean, but organized. The trash was gone. The counter was shining. A pot sat on the small stove, and something inside it smelled like actual food. Yuna stood nearby, folding a cloth. "I hope this is acceptable," she said softly. "I found ingredients in your storage. I made soup." Diane had not eaten hot soup in 6 months. He sat down and tasted it. It was simple but good, warm, real. When he looked up, Yuna was watching him with careful eyes. "Is it okay?" she asked. Doyen nodded slowly. "Yeah, it's okay." For the first time in a long time, his ship did not feel so empty. "I can cook. I can clean. I can be quiet." 3 weeks passed. Diane kept finding reasons not to drop Yuna off. The first station they reached was too dangerous. Crime gangs controlled the docks, and a Velith woman traveling alone would disappear within hours. The second station had bounty hunters who specialized in catching runaway servants. The third station was too far from any safe planet. At least, that was what Doyen told himself. The truth was simpler. He did not want her to leave. His ship had changed. The corridors were clean now. The galley smelled like food instead of rot. Meals appeared at regular times, placed on the small table in the cockpit where he spent most of his day. Simple meals, but warm and made with care. Yuna had fixed things he did not even know were broken. A door that had been stuck for 2 years now opened smoothly. The water recycler that had been making strange sounds was quiet. The lights in the cargo bay, which had flickered for as long as Doyen could remember, now burned steady and bright. She did all this without asking permission, without expecting thanks, without making any noise at all. That silence bothered Doyen more than he expected. In his years alone, he had grown used to quiet. The hum of the engines, the creak of the hull, the occasional beep of the navigation system. That was normal. But Yuna's silence was different. It was the silence of someone who had been taught that her voice did not matter. Someone who believed that being heard was dangerous. So Doyen started talking. At first, it was just small things. Comments about the route they were taking. Complaints about cargo prices. Memories of stations he had visited before. He did not expect Yuna to respond, and usually she did not. She just listened, her dark eyes following him, her hands busy with some task, but she remembered everything. One day, Doyen mentioned that his father used to make a certain kind of stew. He described it briefly, and then forgot he had said anything. 3 days later, Yuna placed a bowl in front of him. It was not exactly the same as his father's recipe, but it was close. Close enough that Doyun had to look away to hide what he was feeling. "How did you know?" he asked. "You told me," Yuna said simply. "I listened." Doyun realized that no one had truly listened to him in years. As the weeks went on, he found himself sharing more. Stories about his childhood on Earth, about his father, who had loved this old ship more than anything, about the dream they had shared of exploring the galaxy together, a dream that died when his father got sick. Yuna never interrupted, never offered opinions, never said things like, "That must have been hard," or "I understand." She just listened with her whole attention, as if his words were precious things worth keeping. One night, Doyun could not sleep. He walked through the ship and found Yuna standing in the observation deck. This was a small room at the top of the ship with a wide window that showed the stars outside. Doyun rarely came here. Looking at the galaxy just reminded him how small and alone he was. But Yuna stood at the window like she was seeing something wonderful. Her reflection in the glass showed wide eyes and a slightly open mouth. "What are you doing?" Diane asked. She turned quickly, as if caught doing something wrong. "I am sorry. I should not be here. I will go back to—" "No, it's fine. I just asked what you were doing." Yuna looked back at the stars. For a long moment, she did not speak. "I have never chosen where to look before," she finally said. "My whole life, someone told me where to stand, where to look, what to see. But here, alone, I can look anywhere. I am practicing." Diane felt something twist in his chest. He thought about all the small choices he made every day without thinking. What to eat, when to sleep, which direction to turn his head. He had never thought of these as gifts. "Is it hard?" he asked. "Choosing?" Yuna considered the question carefully. "Yes, there are so many stars, so many directions. Sometimes I feel like I am falling because there is nothing holding me in place." She paused. "But it is also wonderful, terrifying and wonderful." Diane walked to the navigation console near the window. He pressed a few buttons and brought up a map of the sector. Hundreds of locations glowed on the screen, planets and stations and nebulae. "Pick somewhere," he said. Yuna stared at him. "What? Pick somewhere you want to go." "Anywhere on this map." "But I do not have the right to. I'm giving you the right. Pick." She looked at the map like it might bite her. Her hand trembled as she raised it. For several seconds, she did not move. Then, slowly, her finger touched a spot on the edge of the screen. It was a nebula. A great cloud of purple and gold gas, far from any trade route. There was no profit there, no cargo to haul, no reason to go at all except that it was beautiful. "There," Yuna whispered. "I have always wanted to see colors like that." Diane had been flying for 7 years. He had always followed cargo routes and delivery schedules. He had never once flown somewhere just because it was pretty. He changed course. The drifting lantern turned away from the nearest station and headed toward the nebula. It would take 4 days to get there. It made no sense economically. Diane did not care. Yuna watched him adjust the navigation. When he finished, she spoke in a voice so quiet he almost missed it. "Thank you, Doyen." It was the first time she had used his name. He smiled, surprising himself. "Don't thank me yet. We don't know if it's actually pretty up close." 4 days later, they reached the nebula. It was more beautiful than either of them had imagined. Great waves of color stretched across the sky, gold melting into purple, melting into pink. The light filled the observation deck and painted everything in soft shades. Yuna stood at the window and cried. Doyen stood beside her and let her cry. He did not try to comfort her or ask what was wrong. He knew these were not sad tears. They stayed there for 6 hours, just watching. Two people who had been alone for too long, sharing something beautiful for the first time. When they finally left the nebula and returned to normal space, something had changed between them. Diane was not sure what to call it, but his ship felt different now. Not just cleaner or more organized. It felt like home. I can cook. I can clean. I can be quiet. Lord Tavik was not a patient creature. When his final offer was rejected, he hired a full mercenary crew to hunt down the drifting lantern. Not bounty hunters working alone, but a team of 12 professional soldiers with a fast warship and enough weapons to destroy a small station. Their orders were simple. Capture the Velith alive. The human could die or not. Tavik did not care. Du Yun learned about the mercenaries from a contact at a fuel station. The old woman ran a small repair shop and had heard things. You need to run, she told him. These are not regular hunters. These are killers. Where am I supposed to run? They'll follow wherever I go. The old woman shook her head sadly. Then I am sorry, friend. You should have let the girl go when you had the chance. Diane returned to his ship and told Yuna everything. She listened in silence, then said, She is right. You should let me go. I will turn myself in. Then they will leave you alone. That's not happening. Doyen, please. You cannot fight a warship. You will die. And for what? For me? I am not. Stop. Doyen's voice was sharp. Stop saying you're not worth it. I'm tired of hearing that. You're worth it to me. And if that's irrational, fine. I'm irrational. That's what humans do. Yuna fell silent. That night, Doyen sat alone in the cockpit, thinking. He had no weapons that could fight a warship. He had no military training. He had no powerful friends or connections. He was just one man with an old cargo ship and a stubborn refusal to give up. But he knew one thing. He was not the only human in the galaxy. There was a network of human cargo haulers and smugglers who operated in this sector. Doyen had avoided them for years. They were rough people, operating outside the law. But they were also loyal to their own. He sent out a message. Not a formal request, just a simple story. He told them about Yuna, about how she had come to his door, about how she could cook and clean and be quiet, about how she had never been allowed to choose anything in her life until he let her pick a direction to fly. He told them about Lord Tavik and the mercenaries. He did not ask for help directly. He just told the truth and hoped someone would care. Then he waited. 3 days later, the mercenary warship found them. Doyen was flying through an empty region of space, far from any station. The warship appeared on his sensors suddenly, dropping out of faster-than-light travel less than 1,000 kilometers away. It was 5 times the size of his ship and bristled with weapons. A voice came through the communication system. Cargo vessel Drifting Lantern. This is Commander Vrax of the mercenary ship Iron Fang. You will stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resist, and you will be destroyed. Diane looked at Yuna. She was gripping the armrest of her seat, her knuckles white. I'm sorry, she whispered. Doyen did not answer. He was watching his sensors, because something impossible was happening. Ships were appearing. Not 1 or 2, but many. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a ragged line, placing themselves between the Drifting Lantern and the mercenary warship. There were 17 of them, cargo haulers like Doyen's ship, personal transports, mining vessels, even an old patrol ship that looked like it should have been scrapped years ago. They were mismatched and poorly armed. None of them could fight the warship alone, but there were 17 of them. Atame. New voice came through the communication system. It belonged to a human woman. Commander Vrax, this is Captain Nari of the transport Lucky Star. The Drifting Lantern is under human protection. We suggest you leave. Vrax's response was immediate and angry. Human protection? What authority do you have here? You are civilians in civilian ships. This is official bounty recovery business. We don't recognize your authority, Captain Nari replied calmly. The girl stays with us. This is madness. I have a warship. You have garbage haulers. True, but there are a lot of us. And more are coming. Diane checked his sensors. It was true. More signals were appearing at the edge of detection range. Human ships coming from different directions, all heading toward the same point. In the co-pilot's seat, Yuna was crying silently. I do not understand, she whispered. Why are they here? They do not know me. Diane felt his own eyes burning. Because someone told them the story. And humans are stupid that way. We hear about someone in trouble, and we show up. On the communication channel, Vrax was arguing with Captain Nari. Lord Tavik will not accept this. He will send more ships. He will make you pay. Maybe. But right now, you're outnumbered. And you're getting more outnumbered every minute. Is one Velith girl really worth losing your ship? There was silence on the channel. Doyun watched the warship on his sensors. It was holding position, weapons still armed. He could imagine the mercenary commander calculating odds. Yes, the warship was more powerful. Yes, it could probably destroy several of these small ships. But it could not destroy all of them. And in the confusion, someone might get lucky. It was not worth the risk. Not for one escaped servant. The warship's engines lit up. It turned slowly, pointing away from the gathered human ships. This is not over, Rax said. Lord Tavik will hear about this. All of you. Tell him we said hello. Captain Nari replied. The warship jumped to faster than light. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. Doyun released a breath he did not know he had been holding. The human ships did not stay long. They had jobs to do, routes to fly. But as they passed the drifting lantern, each one sent a short message. Take care of her, friend. You did good. Next time you need help, call sooner. One captain, an older man with a gray beard, sent a longer message. My grandmother was a refugee once. Someone opened a door for her too. That's why I came. Pay it forward someday. When the last ship had gone, Doyen and Yuna sat alone in the cockpit. The stars were quiet around them. I do not understand humans, Yuna finally said. You risk everything for strangers. You fight battles that make no sense. You refuse to let go. Diane nodded slowly. Yeah, we're not very practical. It is not practical at all. She paused. But it is beautiful. She reached out and touched his hand. Her skin was cool and smooth. Thank you, Doyen, for everything. He turned his hand over and held hers gently. Don't thank me. Thank the crazy humans who showed up. I didn't do anything except tell the truth. You told them my story. You made me matter to people who never met me. She squeezed his hand. That is not nothing. Diane looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Lord Tavik was learning that his mercenaries had failed. Somewhere out there, the story of today was spreading. A human said no to a lord. Other humans came to help. A Velith girl was still free. It was not a revolution. Not yet. But it was a crack in something that was never supposed to break. And cracks have a way of growing. I can cook. I can clean. I can be quiet. The first bounty hunter appeared at Way Station Orion 5. Doyen had stopped there to pick up a small cargo job. Nothing special. Just medical supplies heading to a mining colony. He left Yuna on the ship and went to the station office to sign the paperwork. When he returned, a tall alien with gray skin and 4 arms was standing outside his cargo door. The alien wore armor and carried weapons on every belt. Doyen, the alien said. It was not a question. You have something that belongs to Lord Tavik. Diane felt his heart beat faster, but he kept his face calm. I don't know what you're talking about. A Velith female. Escaped property. Lord Tavik is offering 5,000 credits for her return. I suggest you take the easy path. There's no one on my ship but me." The bounty hunter smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Then you will not mind if I look inside." Diane thought about the small laser pistol he kept in his jacket. He had never fired it at anyone. He did not even know if it still worked. But something cold settled in his stomach, and he realized he would use it if he had to. "Actually," Diane said, "I do mind. This is my ship. You need station authority to search it." The hunter stared at him for a long moment. Diane stared back. Finally, the alien made a sound like a laugh. "You are a fool, human. Lord Tavik does not forget. He does not forgive. You have made a powerful enemy today." The hunter walked away. Diane waited until he was out of sight, then hurried inside the ship. His hands were shaking. Una was hiding in the storage room, pressed into the corner with her arms wrapped around herself. When Diane entered, she looked up with terror in her eyes. "He found me," she whispered. "I am sorry. I should leave." "I should. You're not going anywhere," Diane said. His voice was harder than he intended. "We're leaving this station right now. And we're not coming back." They flew for 6 hours before Diane felt safe enough to slow down. During that time, Una sat in the co-pilot seat, silent and still. Finally, she spoke. "You should not have done that." "Done what?" "Protected me. Lied for me. That hunter could have killed you. He didn't. But he could have." Una's voice broke slightly. "I am not worth dying for, Diane. I am just a Velith. There are millions of us. We are made to be replaced." Diane stopped the ship. He turned his chair to face her fully. "Don't ever say that again. But it is true. My kind. I don't care about your kind. I care about you. You, Una, the woman who fixed my ship and made me soup and cried at a nebula because she'd never seen something beautiful before. You're not replaceable. Not to me." Una stared at him. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. Diane turned back to the controls and started flying again. His face felt hot. "Now stop talking about leaving," he muttered. "We need to figure out how to keep you safe." But keeping Una safe was harder than Diane expected. Over the next month, bounty hunters appeared everywhere they went. Different species, different methods, but always the same question. Where is the Velith? At one station, Diane had to lie to security officers. At another, he forged documents claiming Una was his registered employee. At a third, a hunter tried to force his way onto the ship, and Diane punched him in the face. His fist hurt for days. But the hunter stayed down, and that was what mattered. Una watched all of this with growing horror. "This is wrong," she said one night. "You are changing because of me. You are not a man who punched people before. Maybe I needed to become one? Why? Why do all this for me?" Diane did not have a good answer. He just knew that when he looked at Una, he saw someone who had been told her whole life that she did not matter. Someone who had never been allowed to want anything. Someone who was learning slowly that she was a person with value. He could not give that up. He could not let them take that away at a trading post in a distant sector. Diane overheard 2 alien merchants talking about him. "You see that human?" One said, "He's the one protecting the runaway Velith. Lord Tavik has doubled the bounty." "Foolish creature," the other replied. "Humans always do this. They bond with anything. Give them a broken animal, a damaged machine, a lost servant, and they will fight the whole galaxy to keep it. Irrational species. Indeed, but dangerous when angry." Diane walked past them without looking. That night, he told Una what he had heard. She listened quietly, then asked, "Is it true? Do humans really bond with everything?" "I guess so. We keep pets that live for years and give nothing back." We name our cars and feel sad when they break. We fall in love with people who are completely wrong for us." He shrugged. "We're not good at letting go. That seems inefficient." "It is. Very inefficient." He smiled slightly. "But it's also kind of the point. We don't just care about useful things. We care about things because they're ours." Yuna looked at him for a long time. "Am I yours then?" The question hung in the air. Diane thought carefully before answering. "No, you're not mine. You're your own. That's what I'm trying to protect. The right for you to belong to yourself." Yuna's eyes filled with tears again. But this time, she smiled too. 3 days later, a message arrived on the ship's communication system. It was from Lord Tavik himself. His face appeared on screen, blue-skinned and cold-eyed, wearing clothes that cost more than Doyen's entire ship. "Human," Lord Tavik said, "you have been very troublesome. I am offering you one final chance. Return my property within 10 standard days, and I will forget your insults. Refuse, and I will make an example of you. Your species is new to this galaxy. You do not have the power to make enemies like me." The message ended. Doyen looked at Yuna. She was pale, her hands trembling. "What will you do?" She whispered. Doyen pressed the reply button. When the light turned green, he spoke one word into the recorder. "No." Then he deleted the message and set a new course. Behind them, somewhere in the galaxy, Lord Tavik received the reply. And for the first time in many years, he felt something he did not recognize. It was the beginning of fear. "I can cook. I can clean. I can be quiet." 1 year later, the drifting lantern looked like a different ship. The rust was gone, replaced by fresh paint in deep blue and silver. The engines ran smooth and quiet. The corridors were bright and clean. New equipment filled the cargo bay, purchased with profits from a business that was finally working. Doyen sat in the pilot's seat, reviewing their next delivery route. Yuna sat beside him in the co-pilot chair, checking inventory lists on a tablet. "We are short on medical supplies," she said. "We should stop at Station Kyra to restock." "Good idea. But that adds 6 hours to our route. The mining colony will wait. They always order more than they need anyway." Diane smiled. A year ago, Yuna would never have disagreed with him. She would have accepted any decision he made without question. Now she argued with him about routes, supplies, schedules, everything. She had opinions. Strong ones. It was wonderful. Their business had grown beyond what Doyen ever expected. Word had spread about the cargo hauler who protected his Veloth crewmate. Some customers hired them specifically because of that story. Others avoided them for the same reason. But there were more of the first kind than the second, and that was enough. They were not rich, but they were stable. They had enough to eat well, maintain the ship, and save a little for emergencies. Most importantly, they were choosing their own path. Yuna had changed in ways that surprised Doyen every day. She spoke freely now, sometimes talking for hours about things she had seen or learned. She laughed easily, a bright sound that filled the ship with warmth. She had developed preferences and habits that were entirely her own. She liked sweet foods more than salty ones. She preferred sleeping late and staying up at night. She had learned to play a simple card game and beat Doyen at it 9 times out of 10. She had strong feelings about how cargo should be organized and was not afraid to say when Doyen did it wrong. She was, in every way that mattered, a person. Not a servant. Not property. A person who made choices and lived with them. One evening, as they flew through quiet space between jobs, Yuna asked Doyen a question that had clearly been on her mind for a long time. What would have happened to me if you had not opened the door that night? Doyen thought about it. I don't know. You might have found another ship, and if no ship took me, then the bounty hunters would have found you. Or station security. You would have been sent back to Tavik. Yuna nodded slowly. I thought about that often. During the first weeks, I wondered if I had made a mistake. If it would have been better to stay in my cage where at least I knew what to expect. Do you still think that? No. She said it without hesitation. Now I cannot imagine going back. The thought of it makes me sick. But back then, freedom was so frightening. I did not know what to do with it. And now? She smiled. It was a real smile, full and warm. Now I still do not always know what to do. But I'm not frightened anymore. I know that whatever happens, I will face it as myself. That is enough. Diane reached over and squeezed her hand briefly. For what it's worth, I'm glad you knocked on my door. I am glad too. Though I was so scared that night. I was shaking so badly I could barely speak. I remember. You looked like a strong wind might blow you away. I felt like one might. She laughed softly. But I kept telling myself to keep going. Keep knocking. Eventually, someone would answer. What if no one ever did? Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then I would have kept knocking until I could not knock anymore. Until my hands gave out or my body failed. At least I would have died trying. Diane felt a tightness in his chest. The strength it must have taken to stand at door after door, expecting nothing, hoping for everything. You're braver than me, he said quietly. No, we are different kinds of brave. You opened the door when you had no reason to. That takes a different kind of strength. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars drift past. The galaxy had changed in small ways since that night 1 year ago. News of the standoff with Lord Tavik's mercenaries had spread far. Other Velith had heard the story, and some of them had started running. Not many, but some. A few had found their way to human ships and human stations, hoping for the same kindness Yuna had received. Not all of them found it. The galaxy was still cruel, and most people still did not care. But the numbers were growing. What was once unthinkable was now merely rare. Lord Tavik himself had suffered. His other servants had become restless. Some whispered among themselves, sharing the story of the Velith who escaped. His business had declined. He slept with guards outside his door now, afraid of what might happen in the dark. Diane did not know any of this in detail. But he sometimes wondered if Yuna thought about the man who had owned her. Do you hate him? He asked one day. Tavik? Yuna considered the question carefully. I used to. When I first escaped, I hated him more than anything. I wanted him to suffer the way he made me suffer. And now? Now I feel tired of him. He took so much of my life. I do not want to give him my hatred too. That would be letting him take more. She paused. I hope he is afraid. I hope every time he looks at a Velith servant, he wonders if they will run. But I do not spend my days wishing him pain. I have better things to do with my time. Diane nodded. That seemed like a healthy way to think about it. The ship continued on its route. They delivered cargo to the mining colony, picked up a new shipment, and headed toward their next destination. It was ordinary work, boring in many ways. But it was their work, chosen and controlled by no one but themselves. On the last night before reaching their destination, Diane found Yuna in the observation deck. She was standing at the window again, looking at the stars. But she did not look overwhelmed anymore. She looked at peace. Diane, she said without turning around. Why did you open the door? He had thought about this question many times. He still did not have a perfect answer. I don't know. Maybe because you asked nicely. Maybe because you looked tired and I was tired, and it seemed like we could be tired together. Maybe because I saw something in your eyes that reminded me of how I felt. That is not a very logical reason. No, it's not. It is a very human reason. He smiled. Yeah, I guess it is. Yuna finally turned to look at him. The starlight made her lavender skin glow softly. "I am glad humans are not logical," she said. "I am glad you open doors for strangers and fight battles that do not make sense and refuse to let go of things that matter to you. Even when it's stupid? Especially when it's stupid." She smiled. "That is when it matters most." They stood together at the window, watching the stars. Two people who had been alone and lost, now finding their way together. The drifting lantern changed course slightly, adjusting for their next destination. It was a small movement, barely noticeable. But it was a choice. Their choice. And in a galaxy full of cruelty and indifference, that meant everything. Behind them, the stars stretched infinite and cold. Ahead of them, the future waited, unknown and full of possibility. Whatever came next, they would face it together, because that was what humans did. They opened doors. They held on to what mattered. They refused to give up, and somehow, against all odds, they changed things one door at a time, one story at a time, one stubborn, irrational, beautiful choice at a time.